Hey, good morning everyone. I hope you're having a good Friday or a good Saturday. Now, I only got a relatively short amount of time to stream. We've got about an hour together. So we're going to get this, here's what our synth board looks like. That's a photo I took the other night. Let's just, let's pause that there for a second. This is the board. This is what it looks like when you run the LED test program. So it lights up all the RGB LEDs, all the red LEDs that are used for the attack, decay, sustain, and release graphs in red there, and also the blue LEDs used for that little ring there that indicates our tuning and detuning. Let's see where we're at. I want to show you what I've been working on. I've been just chipping away on this a little bit each night, and if we wait for the board to boot up, woo! Look at that. Ah, damn, that's looking colorful. So where we're at right now is if you can see the board there up in the top right of your screen, and one of the things we need to do is work up the scaling of some of these LEDs. Some parts are just too bright. But if I start adjusting these controls, see if I turn up the noise, notice how it adds a bit of green into that bottom line there. So what I should explain is these lines. The lines that you're seeing there that sort of run horizontal on the board are designed to show the audio signal path, right? So there's three voices in this synthesizer. There's oscillator 1, which you can tune, oscillator 2, which you can tune, and the three sort of voices run horizontally through a series of filters, and the filters are affected by envelopes, and then it goes out through amplifiers, right? And you do an effect unit. So there's a signal flow through the board, and that's what these LEDs are sort of showing. They're like the landing strip of showing you where the signal is going, and we can turn them right down. In fact, you see now there's nothing coming through that at the bottom, which is the sub oscillator, but I can then turn up green, which is noise. So red is sawtooth wave, blue is square tooth wave, green is noise. Then I can also bring in, oh, that's the top one, I can bring in the sub oscillator to there. And because we're using red for the sawtooth waveform and blue for the square waveform and green for noise, and those are the three waveforms we deal with in the synthesizer, RGB, we've got a whole color palette which basically allows us to do things like, at the top, if I turn up a whole lot of the, if we mix the blue square wave and the red sawtooth wave, we get a lovely shade of purple. Likewise down here, if we keep just we can keep just the square wave going, which makes it very blue, or we can turn it right down and add in the sawtooth wave, or then we can bring in some noise to make it yellow. So the idea here was to get, well, that looks really nice. The idea here was to give us a very visual way to, at a glance, see what the synth is doing and what it sounds like. I wanted, when you load up a patch or a preset on this, I want you to be able to visually see, based on the colors and the way the signal's moving through the device, what that's likely to sound like. But we've still got a bit of work to do. So if we look at, like, where have I gotten to? I've gotten to the stage where I think all the signal paths are going right up into their final amplifier envelope. So if we look here, if we bring out the, oh, cat's going a bit crazy. Right here, there it was. So, no toolbar? How do I, why is this so difficult? But I did there, is that it? Oh, hallelujah. Okay, so we've gotten pretty much, if we draw a box around this, we've gotten all these LEDs coded up so far. That's what you can see lit up on the screen there. Hey, Brian, welcome. Oh, good luck with the vaccination. Hope it's not going to hit you too hard. And hey, Adam Fighter. Hey, Adam Fighter, it's been so awesome to have you join us in Discord and sharing those, asking those questions and sharing what you've learned. Thank you for dropping by. And actually, that's a good, quick reminder. Why is my chat window over there? Let's see if I can put it there. There we go. Anyone else who's watching that wants to join us, please stop by our Discord. But here, this is the section of the board we now need to work on. So if we follow the signal path, oh, I got a stream sneeze going. No, it's gonna just stick around and haunt me. So the first oscillator comes along here and into its amplifier section. Second oscillator signal path comes along here and into that same amplifier section. So this is the oscillator amplifier, we call it. And then the sub-oscillator, that's that same signal but 1 octave lower, goes into its own amplifier section down here. And then both of those come out of here and into the effects system. So let's start there. Let's start with just getting the LEDs for the, this would be the oscillator amplifier. I guess I will call that osc amp, and we'll call this sub amp. And then this one can be, this will be FX dry, because that's basically the signal going straight out without going through the FX chain. And then we'll have FX wet going down here, which is like how much of the signal is actually routing into the effects engine, which is controlled by these 4 controls. And this little bar down here is actually feeding the signal back in on itself. Yeah, I really like the LEDs. I really like this photo. I had it open a few times. Might straighten it up, tidy it up a little bit. Our code base is clear. All right, so source, oops. Git commit AM, RGB LEDs, OSC1 up to OSC amp, OSC2 up to OSC amp, just sort of marking down the progress we've made to date, and then sub up to sub amp. That's basically where we're at right now. You know, the thing with Git is commit often, commit early. There's 2 types of Git users in this world. We had an awesome expert from GitHub join us a couple of weeks ago to help us, you know, really nail the world's best pipeline for how we deliver software at work. And he and I were joking about the difference between you know, people that like to, you know, they commit often, commit early, and then they like to, you know, squash down their commit because they don't, you know, he's using his words, some people don't want to see that trail of tears. And I'm sort of the opposite school of thought. I'm like lots and lots of individual commits, merge them in, be as granular as you can, because there's two types of Git users in this world, 2 types of developers. There is the developer that's used Git bisect successfully, and then there's the developer that is still searching for the bug. And when you've got a very granular Git commit history, you can very easily bisect and find out where the hell did something break. And it's an incredibly useful tool. But that's not what we're here for. What am I looking for here? Oscillator? No. What? Is that hardware? Yes, exactly. See you dying. I love it. Found it so handy. I've even used it in building. Like, you know, I was running into problems with KiCad, the EDA app that we've used to design the circuit boards and stuff here. I used Git bisect on that even when, I mean, though. I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, if you guys haven't, let me give a quick shout to former colleague of mine, and I go see if I can find his series of writings. Building Rome's Ardal, man. Drop this link in the chat. Yes, this guy. So Ardal and I work together at Apple extensively on a lot of things, and oh, he's at Nike now. I didn't know that. Huh. Around the time I started doing Paved with Good Intentions, he came out with this one, Building Rome's. And this was his article that he pushed a week or so ago called "Complexity is Not the Enemy," and I've been meaning to follow up with him on that, because I think one of the things that's really important is to understand the difference between complication and complexity. And I always get the definition wrong or transposed, but you think about a car engine, right? A car engine is a lot of is a huge number of parts that all have to move together in perfect unison or perfect timing, perfect harmony. in order for that engine to work. There's just a massive number of parts and systems and all the rest that goes into that. And that, I think, is what is defined as complicated, right? That's a complicated system, and that's okay. You can have a complicated system. It takes a lot of engineering work to design it, a huge amount of testing to prove it out, and a lot of refinement to make sure it keeps doing what you want it to do. But ultimately, it's okay. You can have that if that's what you want, and that's probably a good thing to keep in mind. What you want to avoid, though, is complexity. Complexity is, if you think of the car engine as being complicated because it has a huge number of parts that have all got to work together perfectly, complexity is like the weather system, right? So weather is an enormous, innumerable number of incredibly subtle effects that at the most micro level are playing off one another to have macro level effects, and in constant feedback loops where the slightest change in temperature here or a variance in pressure here affects this, which affects that, which will alter this. It's a complexity is utterly is unpredictable, and that's the key difference to keep in mind, right? A complicated system is not something to necessarily shy away from, as long as it's complicated insofar as, well, first of all, the complication is necessary, and that it is ultimately predictable, it's systematic, it's introspectable, it's testable, and you get repeatable results each time. But what you've got to worry about and what you've got to try and avoid is complexity, which is where you've introduced an element that becomes, you know, an opaque or unintrospectable, uninterrogable part of the system where the results are indeterminate, the functionality is opaque. Those are the problematic things. Anyway, we might get back to doing some coding now. So I've just copied the bit of code that non-deterministic is out of. Yeah, exactly. Non-deterministic. I think that's actually a better way to put it. I think that the idea of complexity and complication is probably just too overused and too vague to really be understood or really to be leveraged. It comes down to that non-deterministicness. You know, if you've introduced a part of the system that is non-deterministic or is opaque or is from whatever you're working with. Now, what I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of an indicator of what I'm doing here. So these LEDs are coded up, and I've just copied and pasted the bit of code that's taking care of those 4 LEDs. And same configuration as this lot here, right? So if we take a look at the schematic here, or the board, I should say, and we probably need to just turn off a couple of layers here to be able to see this properly. So what we're talking about here is this. And if I turn back on my copper and just try and trace these down, it looks like they're all using this processor here, or this LED controller. So that's LED 4, 5, 6 down in the code because I've got a memory like a sieve. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the controller that's using is write100. Okay, cool. So it's actually the same as this little bit of code that we stripped here, but this bit of code is controlling LED 0132. And note I've got the order wrong there. And then this is the next batch of LEDs, 4, 5, 6. Stable bandwidth, which is super weird. Let me just see what's going on here. You know, give me one sec. I'll be right